Which
pretend it doesn't exist.
I can still say that I was given stuff by Wizard and sponsored by Wizard, but we can't talk about obviously like the mistake because I don't want that.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah. Let's talk about your stream and let's be proud that you're fucking sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is really fantastic.
Well, all right, so are you, let me just get the levels and stuff before we do anything. Just make sure your headphones are working, because I realize that those headphones have, the input has a little bit of an issue, so I want to make sure that they're working right.
Hello.
Check. Hi.
Check. Hi.
Hi. How's that? Is that all right? The Red Robin Road readily
rocks.
The silver suited siphon sexual suitors. How's it? Can you hear in your phones? And you can hear you. You're good.
And I can hear you.
All right. Good. Hello.
Hello.
All right. I'll turn it down just a little bit, actually. Are you ready? Because we can start the stream.
Am I ready?
I'll just do it anyway.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Do that. I'll just make sure everything is working, and then we can start.
I have your links. I just haven't had a chance to review them or anything. Which maybe that's the next step.
What's that?
Well, this is like the first step. We're starting to send these emails.
Oh, then like look at them.
And then
yeah, actually look at them.
Actually look at them before the show.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, yeah. But I have all your links. But,
all right.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna switch it over to the stream, and if you don't mind, just talking so I can hear.
Check. Yes, it's gonna be a great show. Episode 42, a lot of fun stuff coming for this show. I'm gonna have a old school magic trivia for Rich, based on old history of magic kind of stuff.
All right.
I found an old article with some cool questions.
All right.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Just the tip, huh?
Just the tip. Don't worry. Okay, you ready?
Are you ready? Do you like the little bit of reverb I put on?
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, ready?
Welcome to... That's too loud.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard the overload. Welcome to episode 42 of Mythic Legendaries, a podcast about Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone, brought to you by two old friends who love podcasts and the games we play. My name is Mock Sapphire.
My name is Rich G.
Hello, Rich G.
Hi.
Welcome. If it's your first time joining us, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show. We really appreciate you tuning in.
Yes.
If you're back, thanks for coming back. You're awesome. We love you. On this side of the table, my name is Mock Sapphire. I talk about Hearthstone.
On this side of the table, my name is Rich, and I talk about Magic the Gathering. And we have to let you know, people who are listening and watching, this stream is sponsored by Wizards of the Coast today.
Wow.
All of the streams from this channel are sponsored by Wizards of the Coast.
I feel taller.
Yeah, right? Big, my head got a little bit bigger, didn't it? But no, so they've sponsored this channel all week long with arena inventory and such to make my streams awesome. So we have to thank them for sponsoring.
Yes, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast, sponsoring the show today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And Rich's stream, he's a featured content creator
That's tomorrow.
tomorrow.
I'm gonna just stream all day.
That's
I'm
awesome.
just gonna go for it all day long.
Fuck yeah.
12 hours. Boom.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
That's awesome. That actually brings me to what's going on in Hearthstone this week.
What's going on?
Featuring a content creator named Ox, at Liquid Ox HS on Twitter, and he did a kind of challenge over the past week where he started a account
Mhm.
and like a free to play account
Mhm.
and went from free to legend in one day.
Stop it.
I'm not even going to tell you the details of the rules he
Wow.
set for himself. He did it all on stream. It's bonkers.
That's crazy.
And he also wrote an article. He had a great week.
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sounds that way.
He wrote an article, top 10 tips to get better at Hearthstone.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to talk about that.
Cool.
I also have trivia for you,
Mm-hmm.
and also there's a Dear Rich.
Is there really?
There's a Dear Rich,
Awesome.
yeah. Every third show of the month.
Cool.
We go through all the emails where people write in, mythiclegendaries@gmail.com,
Mm-hmm.
and they ask questions for Rich, and it's like a little advice corner. So,
I give good advice, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I might not give good advice about magic, but I give good life advice. Cool.
Yeah. It's a big week for Magic.
It's a big week. Big week. Just been streaming,
Streaming?
watching the new set evolve and mutate, if you will, because it's a new mechanic in the set.
Mutate, yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, like magnetism, kind of.
yeah. Shout out to MTG Dark Knight Gaming in the chat, one of our new friends. Shout out to you.
Shout out.
We exchanged some ideas the past couple days about building decks around mutate. It's been a lot of fun. So what I'm talking about today is first impressions of the Ikoria set, what I've been doing this week, the couple decks that I built, and just like, it's just crazy. It's just a new set, and just everything is just like there's a bag, right? And all the cards are poured into it, and then you just shake it up now.
Yeah.
Shaking it up and
Shake,
figuring it out, and you figure it out, and it's a lot of fun right now. So I'm glad that this
shake
is
it like a Polaroid picture.
shaking it, just shaking it.
Shake it.
So, yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about today because there's just a lot.
Humans. Play humans.
I played humans, yeah. It was like whatever.
Ah.
It's a good deck, but it's just kind of like
Tier 2 or Tier 3?
It's just creatures attacking, you know, like it's.
But they're all humans. They're all working together
They are.
to survive and destroy all these evil forces.
But it's, I mean, yeah, it's alright.
Godzilla? Humans versus Godzilla?
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. The Godzilla stuff is cool.
I was really rooting for the humans.
I mean, it's good, but it's not like it's not super exciting because it doesn't do anything different than like another deck with a whole bunch of creature types in it. You know, it's a very like level, like okay, you got a bunch of aggressive things, do a couple cool things, but that's it. You know,
Yeah.
so I enjoyed it,
That's cool.
but it got boring because there's just so much stuff going on with other cards in the set that like I'm not like satisfied by just attacking and winning. Like I need to be doing so many other things because it's available to you. So
Oh, yeah,
that's
I
where
can't
I'm at.
imagine.
It's like it's just there's so much stuff going on.
And you bought 2 pre-orders and you
Yeah.
had like almost every card in the
Yeah,
set.
we got all the cards. Got just basically could make all the decks that exist already and like whatever other stuff that I wanted to build and try out. So
That's cool. I was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I dusted all of my cards that rotated into wild.
Mhm.
I ended up dusting them all,
mhm,
which has always happened to me
Right,
because I
right.
have standard focus.
right,
And with all that dust, I've made every deck that has
Awesome.
come up into tier 1
Yeah.
and tier 2, and I've been trying everything. I made it to, on day 1 of the new expansion, made it to Diamond 6.
mhm. I think you sent a picture of that one, right? Yeah.
That was the first time on day 1
Yep.
with Demon Hunter.
Yep.
And then they nerfed Demon Hunter,
Mhm.
and then I was upset and I was trying to figure out what to do. I ended up playing a new demon, the Viper list,
Mhm.
which has been floating around the Twitters, and I got to D6 again.
Mhm. How far back did you go? Like how?
I went back to 10.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I went back to Diamond 10.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to get to the next plateau where you can't fall behind, which is Diamond 5.
Okay.
And, oh, thank God, that's exactly what I needed.
We're always prepared.
That's so awesome. Thank you, Rich.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Then I made it back to Diamond 6 with the Viper list, and then they did another set of balance changes, which threw me for another loop because the meta changed again. I wasn't sure if Viper was still going to be hot, and now I'm scrambling again.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. Besides my frustrations on not being the best player but trying to get better, we do have some players that are inspirational.
Yeah.
Ox. OX. Liquid Ox.
Liquid Ox.
HS.
All right.
So it's liquid, LIQUID OX HS. That's at Liquid Ox HS. His Twitter reads, his background says, Liquid Ox, aspiring Hearthstone pro and streamer. Follow me for live stream notifications. Don't let your memes be dreams. Wanna be Hearthstone content creator and player. Hit top 200 pretty much every month. Peaked at top 10 multiple times with top number 3. You can find him at Twitch at twitch.tv/liquidox_HS. I think you've made it, dude. You're a Hearthstone creator.
Absolutely. That's yeah, you made it.
Yeah. If you look at his Twitter, just recently he did a challenge, which was he was going to start a brand new account, a free to play account.
Yeah.
The rules were, and this was on the European server. Number 1, you can't spend any money. You cannot skip any ranks. You must run at least 1 copy of Ogre in every deck. Okay. Which is just like common. Yeah.
It's just a thing, just a stipulation.
Yeah.
Like I gotta do this one.
It's gotta be in every deck.
Thing. Okay.
Must all be on stream. Rule number 5, cannot unlock Demon Hunter ever.
Okay, so you're not playing with the new set.
Right. With the new,
the new what is it called?
Class. Yeah. Number 6, 10 push-ups per loss.
I like that. Wow, I might start doing that while I play.
That's not a bad idea,
That is
right?
not a bad idea. That is a great idea.
I just started a new glute.
Or like air squats. Just like do like 50 air squats.
I started a glute routine, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I felt the burn.
Yeah.
There's this new thing I heard about BOSS. It's an acronym BOSS.
I've heard of that as well. What is that?
B is
buns of stupid steel.
Yeah.
Buns of sexy steel.
Don't try to make me remember. I have it written down. But this new is I'm gonna show you the before. I'm gonna take a before picture.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this workout every day. Okay.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah, that's good. I've been doing so on the topic of workouts real quick.
Okay.
I have been also working out every other day with a more intense. I just basically started doing it one morning because I was like, riding the bike is okay, but it's like it hurts my butt. The seat is super uncomfortable. I'm a big guy, and to be on a bike, it's just cumbersome, and it takes a lot for me to like have to start sweating on the bike, and it takes a long time. So I took a lot of the knowledge that I had from when I used to work out, when I used to do weightlifting. A lot of the warm-ups and stuff were very intense to get yourself going. So I just started doing air squats, stretches, some sort of like yoga-esque like stretches and stuff on the floor over here. And then I'll do a bunch of air squats. And then I'll run downstairs. And you know, I don't know if you saw, but my downstairs, I have like a lot of like different steps and stuff. And I'll do like box jumps, like I'll jump up, jump up, jump up. I'll do like 10, and then I have like a little bench. I have like a rack to do like like chest workouts, but I don't have a bar. And the bars are super expensive. So I just have the equipment, I just don't have the weights. Yeah. But I took the bench and I started doing, because I can't do real push-ups.
See,
that's what I'm gonna do. So let me get to that real quick. So I know this is like off topic, but I'm excited to talk about it because I started doing like push-ups on the bench, and then I do like step-ups on the bench, and then I'll do more box jumps, and then I come back upstairs and I'll do the squats and stuff, and then like 20-25 minutes of that, heart rate's going, sweat, the whole thing, so that's good. But the one thing I want is to be able to lift weights. So what I'm going to do? There's a pile of rocks out in the back there.
Yeah.
That's just a pile of rocks. I'm going to grab my workout bag, fill it with rocks, bring them up here, and then just start using the rocks to work out. Just like put them in like a strong bag, like a duffel bag, and just use them. Just that's what I'm going to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to start working out again, but as of course the gyms and stuff are all closed, and it's really hard to actually work out. But I have so much space in here. I just realized that I can
and it's cool in the basement.
It is. It's nice and cool down there, so you don't get like super hot and sweaty. You just like get a good workout, and then boom, done.
Okay, I remember. So this is from Tony Robbins' trainer, who also trained The Rock.
Okay.
It's like this acronym, BOSS, burn. So you can feel that burn.
Okay.
That's how you know that things are happening. You're changing your physiology.
Okay.
Out of breath.
Okay.
It's okay. It means you're challenging your lungs.
Yep.
And when you challenge yourself, you strengthen yourself. Sweat.
Yep.
Means you're using enough muscles to generate heat, and that's good. And struggle. You don't want it to be too easy. You want to feel that you're struggling a little bit. Trying to go above.
I hit all 4 of those boxes with this workout. That's great.
Cool.
Good to know.
I start with stretching too because I had really shitty lower back.
Yeah.
And I do my stretches.
Yep.
I was doing sit-ups and crunches, but I cut them out because
they hurt your back.
They hurt my back.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
And so instead, I'm doing planking.
Planking. Air 5. Yeah, that's what I forgot when I was like, I was doing planks too. All right, I love that we're on the same page.
Talking about struggle, that's a lot.
That is a struggle. Your whole like, as soon as you start, you're just like,
and then you do the side one.
The side one's hard.
Yeah,
that one's hard. Yeah, I don't do the side one yet. I haven't progressed that. Just the regular one.
Yeah. I challenge everybody to do the side plank this week.
Every time you lose a match, do 15-second plank. Try
oh my god. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
So Ox, so that's was his goal, using those
I love it.
in one day. No, sorry. We hit legend with this is quote from Ox. We hit legend with a brand new account 4 days after making it. Overall record, 132 wins, 32 losses.
Wow.
Played starting mage for 91 games, then 73 games from bronze 10 at 57 wins, 16 losses. Entered at 292 and ran Boulder Fist Ogre in every deck. That's skill.
That is skill.
So, all these times where I'm thinking, I gotta have the best cards.
Right.
I gotta buy everything to be able to hit legend.
Yeah. Right.
You just have to be a good player.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, but how do you become a good player?
Yeah. You watch how this person plays.
Watch Ox if you can, which I'm sure he has videos on his Twitch.
Yeah.
But also he wrote an article, top 10 tips to improve at Hearthstone.
Cool.
He wrote that this week.
Okay.
I just wanted to go over his tips,
Yeah.
Which are things I need to take to heart and I really need to do because he proved it.
Yeah.
He proved that you don't need to spend the money. It's not about playing the most broken deck on day one, which is my go-to. That's the easiest way to do it for me, just because I need to get better. And I have to focus.
So I'm sure these things can apply to Magic as well.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I imagine. So this is just the top 10 tips. Gonna go through them real quick. This is from Ox. Recently, he says that recently came across a thread asking how to improve at Hearthstone. And I feel like especially with a game such as Hearthstone, putting endless time into the game without a cause isn't always the best solution, and focusing on these 10 areas is a great way to take your decision making to the next level. I first heard about this article from my old coach, Robotson, shout out. Tip number 1, focus on 1 or 2 meta decks.
It's our biggest problem, you and I. I'm all over the place.
Yes.
Okay.
Whether you are limiting time for or not focusing on a single tier 1 deck and learning the ins and outs of that, it's a specific the specific matchups lets you utilize the deck to its fullest potential. Technically, all you have to do is climb is maintain a 50% win rate and put time into the game, which feels good to hear.
Yeah.
If you focus on a deck that, according to HS Replay or Versus, has a 50% win rate by playing like the average player, you might maintain that win rate. However, by focusing on the deck, really learning all the different scenarios can come up and utilize them to your advantage and push the win rate higher. So that's the number one tip he gives.
Yeah. And that's like the number one thing we never can focus on.
And
which
it's because you like go on a losing streak and you're like, you want to play the deck that beat you.
Right.
But it's not the deck. And this is what he proved, which I love. He proved it's not the deck.
Right.
It's how well you know your opponents, how well you know the matchups and the ins and outs of the deck.
You have to actually play. You have to play the game, not play your deck. Right?
Yeah.
There's more to the games than just being able to play spells and do things on your side. It's chess. It's if you want to be good at a game, you need to know also what your opponent's doing.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes a missed fact of the game. Like you need, when a new set comes out, you want to learn all the cards, even though you're not playing them, so you can anticipate certain things.
So you're saying chess, it's playing the steps ahead.
Right.
It's knowing that if you hang in there towards this turn, what's going to happen, what could happen, because you have the experience of knowing that this card could come and it could save you at the very end, and you still have it in.
And
so many things. Like
what
that.
I noticed too, which helps me, is when I stream or watch streamers, the thing that they do, a good streamer does, is talk through every play and also say out loud what to anticipate. Like, I play this, they could probably do X and Y, so let's anticipate X and Y, and most of the time they're right, or I'm right. Like if I play a thing and I'm up against a deck that has an answer to it, most of the time I'll just say out loud, they'll probably have this thing here, a removal spell or whatever. And most of the time I'm anticipating correctly, so then I have to be like, okay, well, they eliminated that thing, so next turn I have to do 2 more things to catch up for, so just being able to anticipate, and then instantaneously, you just like.
How many turns have your games been going? Because for Hearthstone,
it depends. Yeah, it really depends.
Turn 6 is a big turn. Right now in Hearthstone, like turn 6, a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
And the game is over by turn 10. I mean, usually the game is over by turn 10. Unless you're playing priest.
Right now, so the last metagame before this set came out was long games. There's a lot of control-based decks, and then like lots and lots and lots of turns. As soon as this set came out, everything's so fast now. Like the bigger, more popular decks are like turn 4 or 5, and you or your opponent is either way ahead or way behind. So it got really fast, really, really, really easily too. Like we'll get to it. There's just like a lot of stuff that just got injected into the game that is just nutty. So
you're gonna love tip 2.
What's tip 2?
Because this is what you naturally just started falling into. Work with friends! !
Yeah.
We all have those really good games on ladder, and the person afterwards and actually don't get hated on and make friends of equal skill level. When you get to the higher ranks and you start looking at the game at greater depth, you find that there are often things you miss, and it's great to get a second pair of eyes on the situation, or even a third. I co-op with friends all the time with no intention necessarily for them to carry me or boost me, but to discuss certain plays, and we share replays, etc.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I have this new group of online friends that are like super great at just doing exactly that. Like, could have done this, could have done that. I want to shout out one of my newer friends, Prater MTG. He's from Germany.
Cool.
I watched his stream. He just started streaming recently, and I watched him stream. We connected on Twitter a little bit months ago, and he's up in the higher mythic playing a certain archetype of a deck, and then he just started streaming, and he every single thing he does, he says every single little thing, and he can anticipate something, and he can say what he needs, and that I'm taking sort of that method into my stream, and just the way I think, even if I'm not streaming. But that's a great example of like having a friend that you can see and watch them play a deck, and then you can take that information, play your deck that way, walk yourself through it, and if your friends are watching or whatever, they can give you advice and you give them advice back and forth. So it's a really cool thing to have, even if you're streaming and not trying to be a streamer, not trying to like make something of your life by just playing video games on Twitch. It's more of like just being part of a community and having those friends. Still do those things. You don't have to put on a show. You don't have to have lights in the background. You don't have to like have crazy emotes and stuff. Just playing the game with your friends, you're just going to be a better player. So I like that. That should be the number one. That should be the number one, because you don't get anywhere without any help, you know?
Yeah, there's sometimes I just like, I don't know what the right things to do is. I have 3 different lines of play that I could take, and I'm not sure which one the right one is. I'm gonna start writing down like my big mistakes and try to keep them in mind and stuff like that. Yeah, I'll get there.
Yeah.
I'll get there. Once I've just been saying it, like I just want to get to Diamond 5 and then start streaming. That's so weird. I just put these things that maybe I shouldn't
Just
do
do it. Just start it. Just start and just do it consistently, and it'll all
make
happen.
me better.
It doesn't like I
If
just
it'll
said,
make me better, why would I not do it?
Right. And you, like I just said, you don't. It doesn't have to.
Oh my God, Rich!
What?
Tip number 3. Are you with me on the tips?
No. Sorry, I was. Okay, sorry.
Tip number 3. Don't be stubborn.
That's you.
That's me. When playing Hearthstone, you have to play with an open mind at all times. Technically, there is always a correct line, but it can be extremely close sometimes. Always be prepared for someone to suggest something different and be able to handle criticism.
Yep.
If you are a 5,000 legend, but you believe every decision you make is always optimal, you are wrong, etc., etc. Don't be stubborn. Wow.
Don't be stubborn. There you go.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I'm taking your advice, Ox, for sure.
If I know anything about you, you're stubborn.
I am fucking stubborn. I'm stubborn and spiteful.
Yeah.
And I go ride.
Oof.
You know how I
What a combination.
I would like music in the car on the way home from work.
Screaming.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Moshing in the car. Car mosh.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, look at this. Tip number 4.
Watch streams as much as you can. This is probably the most important tip in my opinion. Hearthstone is not a game of muscle memory. It is a game of decision making, but also physical memory. Watch as many high level players as you can who also talk through their plays, like Rich G was saying. Make a Twitch account and get in chat respectively, asking questions such as, what do I mulligan for in this deck, and why do you do this instead of that? So basically the questions like I have in my head, if I were streaming and I had people watching, I could ask them.
Yep.
Boom. Etc., etc. For sure. I'm going to start doing that. I am. You are making a change. This deck, this list of tips is changing me.
It's great.
Tip number 5. Think about the result and not how you get there. This tip is super important when you want to take your game to the next level. When you have 2 or 3 lines of play and you are completely unsure which one to think about, which each play achieves. This can be broken down into 3 steps, which is really cool. So it's basically what I'm saying is like, I get to this point, turn 6, all these different things I can do. Ask yourself these 3 questions. The resources left in hand after you make the play, the state of the board, what is left in each player's deck. That's cool. First, you see that you may have a full board clear, but it uses a lot of resources or different resources, and you have to consider which resources would be more valuable later in the game, especially if you're playing a Highlander deck and you only have 1 of each card. Yeah, like looking that far ahead and asking those questions that's important.
I have to give an example of this exact
Please do.
thing. I was watching Andrea Mengucci, who I've mentioned before on the podcast, a pro Magic player, and he streams every day and puts up YouTube videos. And he was playing a deck that had counter spells in it, and his opponent was playing, and his opponent played a threat that I 100% assumed he was going to counterspell. And he talked through it, and he said, "We don't need to we never need to counterspell anything because we'll be able to deal with it later." And I was like, but in my head, I'm like, but now you can deal with it now. And he kind of went through this line of thinking that's like, we almost never need to counterspell something immediately because we can get to a point where we can deal with it unless it's like an immediate thing, right? He was just like, unless we need to deal with this,
you keep it in your back pocket.
You keep it in your back. And for me, as like as a I don't want to call it a control player, but to me, you counterspell things. Whatever it is, you can. And he
break
was just
the spirit of your opponent.
Exactly. You're like, I just want to play my cards. Like, no, but he was just like, we almost never need to counterspell something right away because our deck if our deck's going to work the way it is as a full thing rather than card by card, we should be able to take care of it. And sure enough, the game went really long, and he's a super smart player, but he talks through everything. We're going to do this. We're going to take care of this. If he attacks here, Just
Wow.
like brilliant player, but
Yeah.
the thing that stuck with me, and just like this tip here is like, if you see a resource that you might need to use now, but know that your deck can deal with it in a couple turns, or you can get there, like let it happen. And then I was just like,
Wow.
I sat there just like almost like just couldn't believe what he was doing. It's just like counter the thing, like counter it.
When
But
you play a
he's
certain way, like you don't think of these other ways to do it.
Just no, we can save that for later. We'll do, and sure enough, he dealt with it and he won the game.
That rules.
So that's a great tip. Is just to not rush into thinking that just because you have an answer now is when you need to use it. Unless, of course, with the addendum of if that's gonna lose you the game, obviously use it. Just think it through. Like think those things through.
Cool.
Yeah.
Tip number 6. RNG doesn't exist.
That's not true.
Well, sort of. To have a growth mindset in Hearthstone, you've got to completely ignore RNG, as bad as it might screw you over. For me, seeing Blazes win the last 2 Masters Tours in a row and seeing Hunter Ace have that super dominant year in winning Worlds proved to me that luck in Hearthstone doesn't really influence the games half as much as your decisions do.
Okay.
Yeah, because like the good players rise to the top.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes you lose to something you cannot control, and that is unfortunate, but you should be focusing on what you can control. When you are ahead in a game, set up in a way that minimizes the chances for you to lose to random things. When you lose a game, the reason should basically never be, I didn't draw my good cards, or he won a 50-50. Maybe you could have, I think that a lot. You could have made your board wider to play around the Rot Nest Drake, making it a 1/4, for example. There is always things that are within your control.
Yeah, but what if you draw 19 of your 26 lands and can't play anything other than land? So RNG does exist, sort of.
Yeah.
I had a match last night where it was just like, I was laughing because I just couldn't believe the absurdity of like having so many cards in my deck that weren't land cards, and I just kept drawing lands and just like not being able to play my deck. I just kind of like hit that line of thinking where you're like, so Hearthstone is good because they give you mana crystals and you're set up to actually play your spells every turn.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, this is obvious to Magic players, but the one flaw of Magic is that if you don't draw your resource,
you can't
to
play
play
the
the
curve
game
without your resource.
even playing on curve, but just playing the game in general. Like if you just don't draw a land, you can't play your spells, and your opponent, if they happen to draw their land, and then they win, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the biggest flaw of the game. And I know there was a discussion I saw that in the beginnings of designing the game, they had the opportunity, or I think they play tested it with like a kind of thing. I think Yu-Gi-Oh does it. Your resource and your deck are separate. So you can either take a resource or take a card, so if you need to play things, you don't get mana screwed, so to speak.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think in the beginning stages of developing Magic, I could be wrong, but I do remember reading this somewhere where they had them both separated. So if you needed land, you take land instead of a card from your library. But I just kind of like, your game is set up in a way where you can play your cards always, but maybe you're not getting the right ones. Whereas Magic is like, we might get the right cards, but you can be one land away from getting there, and you just never draw it. And
This set has some stuff that messes with your mana curve.
Oh, really?
Yeah, cards that will make your opponents cost more the next turn, or there's a Demon Hunter card that gives your opponent 2 less mana crystals next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a mana destruction,
Like
temporary
land destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's new though.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Tip number 7: slow down.
Mm-hmm.
This one is kind of self-explanatory. I'm in no way endorsing roping your opponent on turn 1. However, don't feel bad using all the time you were given. You're given it for a reason. Don't underestimate the complexity of the game. If the game was so easy, they'd give you 30 seconds per turn.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it might annoy your opponents, use all the time you need. Checking every different line of play, and again, thinking about the outcome, incorporating all the things that we've talked about so far.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, that's true. Which also ties into, like, if you want to play seriously, you have to have the time to play the game. Like playing at work on your break.
It's not,
on shitty
Wi-Fi. You're not fully there.
On ladder is probably not the best idea. Tip number 8: interrogate yourself. Not in a weird way. After every loss, I ask myself why I lost that game.
I got land screwed.
Sometimes it can be as simple as the matchup being unfavorable. Even then, there should be lines you look at, but other times it can be certain turns that cost you where you didn't keep up the pressure or waste resources lazily. A misplay isn't always just missing lethal too. A misplay can just be taking a suboptimal line that made you lose tempo in the mid game or down the line in your games. Yeah. I need to start writing down my mistakes.
Yeah.
But sometimes the matchup can be really unfavorable. Where you're like, I had no time to set up against this aggro deck. But there's always something you could do to think about. So that's good. Interrogate yourself. Try to learn from your mistakes. Absolutely. Tip number 9. Taking breaks in combating tilt.
Big one.
Most of us are on lockdown at the moment, and it's easy to get carried away playing games for long periods of time. However, HS is a brain game. If your head isn't in the right place, your judgment will be clouded, and you're going to be much more prone to careless mistakes. Avoid this when you're on a losing streak. Take at least a 30-minute break. Try and go outside if possible. So
that's your exercise point.
Yeah.
That's your like.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And then he does push-ups.
Yeah.
He breaks his mental, rhythm, and just kind of to start fresh again.
Yeah, it's helpful to do that.
Yeah. I like how he's saying you just have to have over a 50% win rate to climb ladder. So it's hard with the ranks. They fuck with your head.
Right.
Because you're falling.
They really do.
But you have to play. You have to play.
You have to play.
You can't get ahead and not play, which sometimes I don't want to.
It's funny.
Play.
I'm in that spot with you right now. I don't want to play on ladder right now because everything's so new, and I feel like I've been in the play queue a lot, just like doing that or standard events. But I don't want to play because I'm afraid as soon as I bring that deck that I think is good, I'll just get smashed like 3 times in a row, and then give up or get bummed or whatever. I mean, you're very like open to that, when you're, and especially as a new meta game, especially when things are flushing out. So I just been like testing, taking the deck, go to ladder for a minute because you kind of know what to expect in ladder because there's still a metagame there. Building decks with like new metagame stuff, like kind of sprinkled in answers or whatever. And then if it's not working, just, okay, that's a fun deck. And then just kind of like adjust more things to see how they're going to work. But just dipping the toe, yeah. How does it feel?
Trying to get a little traction.
Just, because there's so much, as we'll get into, it's just so much new things and just new archetypes that came out of nowhere. And now you just got to be like, oh crap, I want to deal with that. Yeah, so.
Oh, like all the one card. What is
the companions?
The companions.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear about that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pass it over to you just after this last tip.
Sure.
And then I'll save the trivia and the Dear Rich for off-topic time.
Awesome.
Tip. Anybody in chat?
Yeah. MTG Dark Knight Gaming has been
shout out.
hanging. A few people out there. Thank you everyone who's out there watching.
Yeah, thanks so much.
That's awesome. He actually just said record yourself and rewatch it. Says it makes himself better, which is great. I can't stand watching myself though. Can't stand listening to myself, and I hate it because I have to listen to the podcast after record it to edit it.
Yeah.
Hate that, and especially hate seeing myself.
I always say to Brian when I'm doing the little videos, I'm like, how is this so long? I can't believe we talked for this long.
But we enjoy doing what we do, but I just can't stand seeing myself. Like, I just don't want to see myself ever. So even like, it's the worst combination. If I watched a Twitch stream back, I'd have to hear and see myself. No thanks. But it's good advice if you can get with that. Okay.
Tip 10, play with a purpose. We made it to the end. Every turn there's going to be a multitude of different things you can do, and you've got to keep asking why over and over. Whenever you make a play, you should be able to justify and defend your reasoning behind it, hence why co-oping is great. Your reasoning needs to be solid, otherwise your play is probably wrong. Why is this better than that? I don't know, is an exchange I see happen so often during coaching sessions or co-ops before a suboptimal play is made. In Hearthstone, there are 3 main bodies, the holy trinity of the board and the hand and the deck. When finding the correct play, you should be asking yourself, what this does for the board when it leaves in my hand or baits out from my opponent's hand, and what I still have to draw in my deck. Yeah, sometimes you go to play something to bait your opponent, to have them deal with that, so that you can get to the next thing, or you might not survive.
I've been doing that more and more in Magic, knowing kind of what we're talking about, knowing about all the steps we need to take in order to like think a couple turns ahead. Like playing something that you know you can do without if it gets dealt with, but having that second thing in a turn that if they try to deal with the first thing, they can't deal with the second one, and having the second thing be more important than the first one.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of layering some stuff like that. I've been doing that more and more, and I feel more confident in my play because putting your opponent to the test of, all right, what do I deal with? Okay, like for me, like I was just saying about counter spells, like you hope that your opponent is one of those people that sees a thing and they counter it, you know, rather than like being like, okay, I'll let that go. What do you got next? You know, and they're like, all right, then you're gonna deal with this. So it's a mental gymnastics kind of thing.
Yeah, because maybe they're baiting out your counter spells so that once they're all gone, they can play their thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Ox, you're the man.
Yeah, Ox, that's a really cool list of things.
Thank you so much.
Very cool.
Congratulations on 4 days from 0 to hero.
That's amazing.
I mean, really, that you proved a lot to me, and I think it's going to help me a lot, and I hope it helps our listeners as well.
Absolutely, that's a great list. And where did you find that list again? That's on Competitive HS, the Reddit subreddit Competitive HS.
Yes.
If anybody wants to go over there and take a look.
And again, Ox's Twitter is @LiquidOXHS.
Awesome.
@LiquidOXHS. And I think he's like 10 years old.
Probably. That's probably really true.
I don't know the truth, but it looks pretty young. But you're the man.
Good job, Ox.
I'm gonna pass my turn.
All right, cool. Magic the Gathering time, huh?
Yes.
All right.
I'm putting my coat on because instantly my body temperature.
You cold?
No, I'm sweating like during my segment, but then during your segment, I get chilly.
You get chilly?
Yeah.
Well, so as everybody knows, Ikoria Lair Behemoths came out last week, and it's been a crazy shake-up because some decks that came out of nowhere, the companion mechanic, Mutate, some cards that are just ridiculously overpowered for what they do and their cost, leads a lot of us to believe that the playtest team might have not seen some of these things coming.
Oh, definitely.
I mean,
they never do.
Right? I mean, and that's the thing you have in Hearthstone is that
they never have enough time to playtest as much as they need to because the schedule is so intense.
Right. They're making like 3 sets. I mean, they're like making 3 sets like 2 months apart from each other. I mean, they're years ahead of schedule with sets and stuff. So I'm imagining that like the set that they're working on now is coming out in like 6 months from now. So the one that just came out, they couldn't have foreseen how the things were going to work really with all this stuff.
Yeah,
you know, they're like,
they play tested it like a year ago.
Probably.
That's bizarre.
So the companion mechanic is one of the things that's like super awesome, super cool, and very interesting for the game because the way you can describe it is that you have a starting hand of 1 extra card because the companion starts off to the side and you can cast it at any time when you could cast a creature spell, like during your turn. You can cast it at any time if you have the mana. So say your companion costs 3, it just hangs out in a zone that can't be messed with, and then whatever turn you want to cast it and use its abilities or have its abilities function when it's in play, you just cast it from that zone, and then it comes into play. So you're essentially starting your hand, starting the game.
How many companions are in the set?
I think there's 5. And they're all multicolored. They're all like, there's a black-white one, a red-black one, a green-blue one, a blue-white one. Yeah, I think there's 5. I can look it up. Black-blue one. Yeah, I think there's 5 companions. They start off the side. You can have it whenever you want, and they do something ridiculously powerful, either when they come into play or when they're in play. Like, that's the thing. They do have a stipulation. Each one of them has a thing. If you want to start it with as a companion, so there's two ways you can use it. You can use them as just regular creatures and shove them in your deck and ignore the companion clause.
Okay.
So, for example, one of the companion clause, the most popular companion right now is Luris of the Dream Den. It's a 3 casting cost nightmare cat. It's a 3/2 with lifelink, and its companion clause is that everything in your deck has to cost 2 or less if you want it as a companion.
Okay.
Okay? Luris costs 3, so you can't put extra Lurises in your deck if you want it as a companion because it's above 2. So there's this clause. Okay, so you can only have 1, so that means he's your companion.
That's
You just have 1, so off to the side. Then everything else in the deck costs 1 or 2 mana. So the whole entire deck costs 1 or 2.
Someone's gonna come up with a.
It's like the number 1 deck already. It's like
wow.
So everything costs 1 or 2. It's a whole bunch of removal spells and value creatures. It's in black. It's usually black, red, black, white. So you have these creatures that are like Priest of Forgotten Gods, Hateful Eidolons, like things that like do something significant with a combination of the other things in your deck. There's a new creature called Serrated Scorpion. It's 1 black, it's a 1/2. When it dies, it deals 2 damage to your opponent and you gain 2 life. And you have a whole bunch of sacrifice outlets in your deck for all these little creatures that do stuff. So the second part to Luris is it says you may play 1 card from your graveyard. Not 1 card, 1 permanent card from your graveyard that costs 2 or less each turn.
Okay.
So here's the combo.
Okay.
Is that so? There's a bunch of removal, a bunch of enchantments in black. One's called Deadweight. It's 1 black mana. It gives target creature, enchanted creature, -2/-2 challenge a turn. So there's a lot of creature-based decks right now. So if your opponent's playing creatures, you're playing a deck that's full of enchantments that go on things, kill it, and then they go to your graveyard. You also have creatures like Hateful Eidolon, which is a 1/2 lifelink creature. It costs 1 mana, but it says on it, if a creature dies that had an aura spell or an enchantment, creature enchantment on it, draw a card when that creature dies.
Wow.
So basically, you're playing an aura on a thing, it kills it, the thing goes to the graveyard, your Hateful Eidolon, if it's in play, you get to draw a card from that, and then either that turn or the next turn, you can play 1 card from your graveyard again.
Wow.
So if your opponent plays another creature, you have that removal spell that went to the graveyard the previous turn again, and then you can draw a card. It's just this like little cycle of like.
How do you defeat that?
I built like some, this is gonna be great, right? One of those kind of decks on my end, and then I went up against that deck. They killed every single thing I put out over and over again with the same deadweight. It was just like turn 3, Luris came out. I couldn't deal with Luris. So the thing that's like really tricky with the Luris decks is that it's your companion, and that means you can only have 1 because everything is 2 or less, right? So if you kill the Luris and he's your companion, it's never going to come back unless you have like graveyard recursion, like you can get stuff out of the graveyard. Otherwise, if it stays out and you can't deal with it, your opponent is just going to keep. I kill that, and kill that, and kill that, and kill this thing, and I'm going to get back, and then the creature that dies, it deals you 2 damage, and you can bring that back, and then sacrifice it again, it's going to deal you 2 damage, and bring it back. It's just this crazy cycle. So that deck is crazy good.
Wow.
The companions are just like crazy, like, they have this crazy ability. You can either use them in your deck and not have them set as your companion, but then there's like the new combo companion. Like the Luris deck is great. I haven't played it yet because everybody's playing it, so I've decided to not play it.
Okay.
I want to do that. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to just rush to the cool new thing because it's like it's a cool new thing. Everybody's doing it. I want to try something different. There was another combo-ish deck that came out though with a companion. It's Gyruda. It's one of the companions that's a Godzilla double face card or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's Gyruda is the name of the magic one, and then it's Gigan is the Cyberclaw Terror is like the Godzilla one. Basically, this deck. So Darude is your companion, costs 4 colorless, and then 2 either blue or black mana, so like the hybrid mana. When Gaigan comes into play, put the top 4 cards of each player's library into the graveyard, then return a creature card with a even converted mana cost from the graveyard to play.
Okay.
And the companion clause on Darude is that all of your creatures, all of your spells have to be an even mana cost. So 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever. Or 0, 2, 4, 6, 8.
Ultimate synergy. Everything's gonna synergize.
Everything's
a companion. Has to.
Right, they have to, exactly. Then there's another companion that everything has to cost odd. You know, there's like they play off of one another. But the Gaigan one is like completely ridiculous. You basically shove a whole bunch of creatures that have even mana costs into the graveyard. You mill them out. These giant creatures that are even converted mana costs keep coming back into play, and then triggering Gaigan again, and then having it happen again, and then happen again, and happen again, and happen again. There's the card Spark Double. It's when it comes into play, it copies a creature in play.
Okay.
If it's legendary, the Spark Double isn't legendary, so it can stay in play. So it can come in play. It costs 4, so it sees Gaigan, it copies it, and then does the same thing that Gaigan does again.
Wow.
And you just keep milling and milling, and then you have this big board of gigantic, crazy creatures in like 2 turns, and it's really fun to play because if you like animations and triggers and stuff, it's a whole bunch. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But that deck is just way too. You see it coming because if you play your opponent, your companion is revealed like in the top right or left or whatever. You see they're playing. So if somebody's companion is Darude, you're like, oh great, okay. So I know I have to deal with this by turn 4 usually because there's a whole bunch of ramp spells. You get like a.
I called last week that that companion deck was going to be the number 1
Yep.
tier 1 deck.
Yes, you did, and it's definitely they're abusing the mechanic in standard, and it's kind of ridiculous but kind of awesome. I really enjoy playing it because it is very powerful, but it gets really boring really fast because you know like your deck does one thing, and you get a whole bunch of crazy creatures out, and that's that. It's fun, but I wouldn't want to play that over and over again.
It's similar to Highlander in Hearthstone.
Really?
Where the cards say if you have no duplicates, then it does
That
this.
does this thing, yeah.
But this is much more.
There is a companion.
in-depth.
The red-blue companion says exactly that. All of your cards need to have a different name other than basic land. So you can only have 1 copy of each thing.
What is it called? Is it called Highlander?
It's not called Highlander. No. It's the little otter. I can't remember the name of it. It's the little otter.
I just realized that's the connection. Highlander, there can only be 1. Like the movie fucking Highlander.
Look at that.
You
You're
didn't
right.
realize that.
You're right.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Fucking
So,
companion, eh?
Companion is very cool. I will say it's very cool, but it also is a little bit OP, as they say. To introduce a mechanic into the game of Magic that lets you have an extra card available to you at any time is really, you can abuse it. I mean, you can abuse it, straight up abuse it, because that's your combo piece. Like if you had to find it in your deck, that would be one thing, right? If you had to like draw your cards and like try to find the creature and then play the creature, and then this legit like gives it to you. It's sitting there. You're like, all right, I need 6 mana to cast this thing, and then when I cast this thing, all this other stuff is going to happen. And people immediately just like built that deck, and it's just like, wow, it's because Companion is pretty broken.
There's 5 different companions.
Yeah, I think there's 5 or 6. Yeah.
So it's hard to tech. Can't really tech against all these. It's too early to tech against things. We're trying to create the biggest, bestest thing.
So what I did, so Companion is great. Companion is cool. It's gonna get abused and abused and abused.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like it as a mechanic. I've been using Companions in creature-based decks in like green and red-green decks because I want to attack my opponent. I want to like play big things and attack them. Like that's the mode I've been in lately. Is like creatures and like creatures that do cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been using the Companion. Let's see, the Companion Umori the Collector. So let's go over. So I have 3 decks that I built. If you want to click on the green deck.
Okay.
we're going to go over, so this is a green deck. It's base green that I put together because on the topic of companions and just wanting to play cards that are awesome, like green cards that do stuff.
Mutate?
Nope, green. Not Mutate.
Mono Amori?
Nope.
Green.
There you go. That one.
Got it.
So when that opens up, you just see on the left-hand side is the deck list.
Cool.
All right. So this is green. This is basically ramp a whole bunch of stuff. You got 4 Humble Naturalists, which is a new card that costs 1 colorless, 1 green. 4 of those. It's a 1/3 creature and then taps to only play creature spells. So you only have creatures in the deck. You have 4 Incubation Druids, which is an older ramp druid, 1 colorless, 1 green, tap for a color of any type that your lands produce, and then you can adapt it to add 3 of any color. 4 Paradise Druids, so you got 4, 8, 12 mana dorks right off the bat.
Okay.
4 Fiend Artisans. Now this card is one of the best cards from the set. It costs 2 mana of either blue or black, or green or black, whichever you choose. So in this deck, it costs 2 green mana. It's a 1/1 creature, and Fiend Artisan gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. And then its ability is X and either 1 black or green, so in this case it's a green. Tap it, sack another creature, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, put it into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate this only when you can do a sorcery. So, we also have 2 Yorvo, Lord of Garenbreak, that's the 4/4 for 3 green mana. 4 Gem Razors, so that's a new card. It's a mutate creature. It's a 4/4 for 4 mana. It has Reach and Trample, and it says whenever this creature mutates, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. So a 4/4 for 4 in this deck is great. It has Reach and Trample, which is even better. And then its mutate ability is basically just an insurance clause. If your opponent is playing like Witch's Ovens or enchantments or artifacts you can't deal with, you can just mutate it onto another creature, and that creature becomes a 4/4 with Reach and Trample, and then you can destroy an artifact or enchantment that your opponent controls. It's just a really good utility card with the mutate mechanic.
Yeah.
3 Nylea, Keen-Eyed. So Nylea is the god from Theros. Indestructible as long as your devotion to green is less than 5. Nylea isn't a creature. In this deck, your devotion to 5 usually is there by turn 3, so it's really good. She's a 5/6, and for 2 colorless and a green, you get to reveal a top card of your library. If it's a creature, you can put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it into your graveyard. So it's a little bit of filtering and draw mechanic. So if you're getting land flooded or whatever, you just toss lands into your graveyard.
She's awesome. She's indestructible.
She is indestructible. Very cool. Very hard to deal with. So 3 Umori the Collector. So this is a companion, but I don't run it as a companion. I just have it in the deck as a creature. It's 2 colorless and 2 hybrid black-green mana. So in this case, it's 2 colorless and 2 green. It says, as Umori the Collector enters the battlefield, choose a card type. I choose creature when it comes into play, and spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. Oh, sorry, and on Nylea Keen-Eyed, that is also one of her passive abilities. Creature spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast.
Nice.
So the combination between Umori and Nylea, your things are super cheap to cast. And then on the high end of stuff,
That's only when they're in play, though.
exactly,
Okay.
right, when they're in play. So I filled the high end of the deck with 1 God Eternal Ronus. So God Eternal Ronus is 3 colorless, a green and a green. It has Death Touch. It's a 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, you double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn, and then it's one of the gods, so if it ever dies, you can actually just put it on 3rd card down on top of your library instead of in the graveyard.
That's awesome.
Okay. 1 Kogla, the Titan Ape. That's a new card from the set. 3 colorless, 3 green. It's a legendary creature ape. When it comes into the battlefield, it gets to fight up to 1 target creature you don't control. It's a 7/6. Whenever it attacks, you get to destroy a target artifact or enchantment a defending player controls. And then for 1 colorless or 1 green, you can return a target human you control to its owner's hand, and then he gains indestructible to end of turn. The Humble Naturalist, the little mana dork in the beginning, he's a human, so if you have one of him out, you can return to your hand, he'll gain indestructible. It's kind of giving you the King Kong vibe there, you know, the little person in the hand and stuff. Really cool. So 1 Kogla, 1 Thorn Mammoth, which is 5 colors, 2 green. It's an elephant. It has trample. It's a 6/6. And whenever Thorn Mammoth or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Thorn Mammoth fights up to one target creature you don't control. So if Thorn Mammoth comes into play with 2 other things, it fights 2 other things. So it would fight 3 things total. So it's basically a removal. But don't forget, if it fights 3 things at once, it's going to take all that damage. So it's a 6/6. If it fights 3 things with 2 power, it'll end up dying, but you'll still kill 3 things with a Thorn Mammoth, which is pretty gnarly.
That's King Kong.
That is King Kong, yeah.
Kogla.
Yeah, Kogla is definitely King Kong.
That's a really cool, that's really themed well.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah.
1 colorless, 1 green, return target kingdom you control to its own stand. Kogla gains indestructible until the end of turn. That is like
it's
amazing.
King Kong. It's King Kong
so
in
cool.
a card. It's really cool. Alright, it's 1 Thorn Mammoth, 1 End Raise, 4 runners, which is a pretty popular end card for a lot of green decks nowadays. 5 colors, 3 greens, Vigilance, Trample, Haste. When it comes into the battlefield, everybody you control gets +2/+2 and gain Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. It's a 7/7. So it's basically just buffs your whole team and you swing super hard. 4 Great Henge. That's the artifact that gets X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. You end up getting pretty big creatures, so it's easy to cast. Tap it to add 2 green and gain 2 life, and then whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. So those are in there to just draw extra cards and make your stuff bigger. And then just for fun, just because I needed to and can, I put an Impervious Great Worm in the deck. It costs 10 mana, 7 colors, 3 green. It's got Convoke, so you can tap your creatures that are in play for mana to help spend it, to help cast it. It's got Indestructible, and it's a 16/16 creature. It's just in there to be in there, okay?
Awesome.
Because I like playing the game and trying to get gigantic creatures on board.
It's a 16/16.
It's a 16/16 Indestructible. It doesn't have Trample, but if you have an End Raise 4 runners out, it will get Trample. So here's the deal. So the way this deck works, obviously, is get some ramp guys, get some big stuff out. The key card really in the deck is Fiend Artisan, because Fiend Artisan, when you have a whole bunch of extra mana, when you start getting, you have all these ramp spells and you have a whole bunch of creatures that create mana, the Fiend Artisan's ability is absolutely broken in this kind of deck, because if you have all this excess mana on like turn 5, you have like 9 mana or something. So you pay 8 mana, you put X and 1 green, tap it, sack one of your mana dorks. You can go into your library and grab your End Raise 4 runners and put it into play, and then you'd have a 7/7 Vigilance, Trample, Haste. The rest of your team gets +2/+2, Vigilance and Trample, and then you attack. So basically you're cheating into play these giant creatures that activate a really cool ability on board, and then you swing at your opponent. So
it's only a 1/1 though.
So it gets bigger with every creature card that's in your graveyard. So when you start sacrificing these mana dorks to it to get something bigger, it gets bigger itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it gets big, and then you can have multiples out. So if there's 3 creature cards in your graveyard, and you play this guy for 2 mana, it's a 4/4 for 2. So if you start like blocking things as well, your creatures start dying, but your Fiend Artisan gets bigger.
Wow.
So
how can this thing lose? It looks like
it's 12/8. And, you know, I played it on this is in the play mode. It's a 12/8, 60% win rate. I mean, it's gone through 9 versions. So I've been like taking things out, putting things in, seeing how to really optimize. And this is the way to go for me for this kind of deck. You know, the Umori making things cost less. The Fiend Artisan is to cheat things into play that have an activated ability when they enter the battlefield. And then a 16/16 creature.
Have you played it? Have you played the worm? The 16?
Just one time. Yeah, one time. It came into play when I conceded. Yeah. Yeah, I was way ahead, so I wanted to see how. It's a fun thing. It's a fun little game to play, like a sub game in Arena when you're way ahead in the play mode, to see how much crap you can do to your opponent before they just auto concede. So you're like clicking super fast, like, I want to see that happen. I want to see it happen. So either your opponent's cool and they'll let you do it, or they'll just be like, all right, I get it. I'm like, cool, bye. You know, I'm going to play somebody else. So it's a fun game to like see how fast you can click and see if things come into play. But so that's my green deck that I built. That's a lot of fun. I played it a couple times, I think, on the ladder and I think it won a couple times. I mean, it's not that big of a difference if something wins on the ladder versus play, but when you're up against like meta decks and you play like a deck that you just threw together because you have fun with it, it's satisfying. But so that's the green deck I built.
It's awesome.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
You should play test against someone with a companion deck and see how it does.
I will. That's we have like a new crew of friends out there that they're all about playtesting. So if anybody wants, hit me up.
In your stream
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Big sponsor.
Big day
Sponsor
tomorrow.
stream. You'll be streaming all day.
Gonna stream all day. Sponsored by Wizards of the Coast.
Sponsored by Wizards of the Coast.
Featured content creator. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking rules.
Remember in 1996 when I ran into my college roommate, he was like, "Hey, you want to play Magic the Gathering?" I was like, "No, nerd." And he's like, "No, it's fun." I was like, "No, nerd." And he was like, "Come on, let's play." I was like, "All right, fine." And then the rest is history. So here I am, 24 years. Wait, 96? No. Yes.
Don't say it. Don't.
It's a long time. 25 years.
It's
24 years.
Fuck yeah.
That many years later,
Sponsored. Remember, all I wanted to become was like sponsored skater.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
Remember that? Yeah.
We're sponsored by the skate shop.
Yeah.
We're sponsored by Lunacy.
Lunacy. Oh my god. I haven't heard that in years.
Yeah.
Lunacy.
I get all my
I got
decks.
pierced there.
You did?
Yeah.
Where?
I got my little brain pierced. Yeah.
Wow.
And my tongue, I think, too. I don't know.
Such a
That was
raver.
That was such a raver. So gross. All right, so all right, so we're gonna go over another deck that I built. We're gonna go over the Mono Umori. So another companion that I actually use as the companion.
I'm there. I'm with you.
All right, so Mono Umori. This is a mono black deck. So this is the exact opposite of what I just played in mono green, but using the same companion in the deck. So, because Umori is a hybrid, you can use it as two colors, either black or green. It's hybrid mana.
Okay.
So you can use it in green decks or black decks, and you can use it. So if it's counting devotion to a color, it would count with 2 pips of black, which is relevant in this deck.
Where's some more? Where's it on the list? I don't see.
It's probably because it's a companion.
Interesting. Is it in the sideboard? Oh yeah, it's in the sideboard.
Is it in the sideboard? Is that how it's?
Oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess technically that's how the game sees your companion as a card in the sideboard. So I start with Umori as my companion, and then so this is a mono black deck that revolves around, again, Fiend Artisan doing crazy things and getting value out of all your creatures. So you've got 4 Knight of the Ebon Legion, 4 Serrated Scorpion, so that's one of the new cards I was just mentioning. 1 black, it's a 1/2. When it dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. 4 Lazatep Reavers, so that's a 1/2 creature for 1 colorless, 1 black. When it comes into the battlefield, you amass 1. So when you amass 1, that creates a token that's a 1/1 creature. So you get 2 creatures for 2 mana, which is great.
Looks like a mech.
It does look like a mech. Yeah, that's a Lazatep Plating. Priest of Forgotten Gods, that's one of the most popular cards nowadays because of its crazy ability to sacrifice 2 other creatures.
Oh my god, I want to cosplay her so bad.
Really?
She's so awesome.
That's a good outfit. I like that a lot. You should do that.
Oh, I want to do that.
Halloween this year?
That'd be great.
So sacrifice 2 other creatures, any number of target players. It says any number, but you're always just doing it to your opponent. They lose 2 life and sack a creature, and then you get to add 2 black to your mana pool and draw a card. So you have all these sort of like expendable creatures that you can sacrifice and then use that ability, and then you get 2 more mana back so you can cast more things that turn. Your opponent loses 2 life and loses a creature, you gain 2 mana and you draw a card. So the Priest of Forgotten Gods is a really cool engine.
Yeah.
And then when you're sacrificing creatures like the Serrated Scorpion, which when it dies, it deals 2 damage to your opponent, you gain 2 life. It's all this like value. 3 Yarok Svenlurker, that's the creature that when it comes into play for 2 black mana, your opponent has to exile a card from their hand, and then you can pump it to get bigger. 4 Fiend Artisan, so in this deck, it costs 2 black rather than 2 green, so it's super flexible. And it does the same thing, it gets +1/+1 for each creature in your graveyard. This deck, it functions way more having things in your graveyard because you're sacrificing a lot of things that are in play, and your graveyard gets big real fast. I had 3 of these in play yesterday that were 14/14 creatures, 3 of them. So
Wow.
That's how fast they can build up because
they get pumped up as things go.
Exactly.
Get sacrificed. Wow.
And they're not legendary, so like you can play 2 mana and have a 14/14 creature if you have all those things in your.
If they're just in your graveyard anyway,
They're
so
just
if you have other things that get sacrificed,
Exactly.
your graveyard
that's
gets bigger.
That's
it just gets bigger.
The combo, so to speak. It's just you keep sacking little things, and these guys get bigger. So there's 4 Fiend Artisans, so you can search up creatures. So there's one of your big win conditions with Fiend Artisan is to be able to search up the Grey Merchant of Asphodel, which is the last creature on the list if you're following along. It costs 3 mana, 3 colorless and 2 black. And then when it comes into play, each opponent loses X life, where your X is your devotion to black, and then you gain that much life. Basically, you're building up your board with a whole bunch of creatures with black mana symbols in them, and then with Fiend Artisan, you can pay 6 mana, 1 black, and then 5 other. Sack a creature, go to your library, and then grab the Grey Merchant. When it comes into play, if your devotion is like 7, your opponent will lose 7 life and you'll gain 7 life. So the Fiend Artisan is like an engine in this deck, but it also has 2 Midnight Reapers, 2 Plague Crafters, 3 Woe Striders, 3 Lurrus of the Dream Den. So we just talked about Lurrus as your companion. I put Lurrus in the deck because of the ability it gives you to be able to play a permanent with a cost 2 or less from your graveyard, because you're sacrificing a whole bunch of stuff. So in order to you can get it back every turn too if you have a Lurrus in play. So that's in there just as an additional creature. 3 Nightmare Shepherds and 3 Grey Merchants. The Nightmare Shepherd is great too because whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you can exile it, and then if you do, you create a token of it, and it's not the same power and toughness. It's just a 1/1 and a Nightmare, but it does all the same stuff it would normally do. So the Grey Merchant, right? If you kill your Grey Merchant and decide to exile it, it comes back as a 1/1 token, but your opponent will still lose that amount of life and you still gain it. So it's
this is really strong.
This is very strong. Yeah, this was surprisingly strong and consistent. There's a lot of cool working pieces, and you can't rush it with this deck. You can't just be like, all right, bunch of little black creatures in attack. There's a lot of like, what happened yesterday is I was playing a mono red deck. I was at 1 life. They had their whole board. There was like 6 creatures. There was an Annex out. There was a Scorch Spreader out. There was all the things, a Runaway Steamkin, and they had 1 card in their hand. And I had my Fiend Artisan out and a whole bunch of other creatures. So I was like, we had this little face-off going, and I was at 1. I think they were at like 9. And a whole bunch of stuff out. I knew, by the way, they were setting up their board. They wanted to use Embercleave the next turn. They had 1 card in their hand. They had the mana to do it. They had a whole bunch of creatures.
Yeah.
My Fiend Artisans were like 11/11s. I had like 3 of them because there's a whole bunch of credit because I was blocking and stuff. So the game was kind of going long, obviously, because I was at 1. They were at 9. I was like, all right, how am I going to do this? Do I want to search up a Plague Crafter and have them sacrifice a creature? No, that doesn't make sense because if they sacrifice Annex, they make 2 guys. There was a whole bunch of thinking going on. And I was just like, and this is what we were talking about earlier, like the chess. You're like, all right, what can my opponent possibly have?
Yeah.
I was like, they have an Embercleave in their hand, 100%. Like they wanted to set up their board to be able to attack and get that.
This is my last chance.
This is it. So instead of sacrificing and getting like a Grey Merchant to gain some life back, but even if I gained that much life back, they could Embercleave me next turn and I would die. It's like, all right, I rolled the dice. I was like, if they have an Embercleave in their hand, I should go get a Yarok's Fenlurker. Because when the Fenlurker comes into play, they have to exile a card in their hand.
Okay.
So I used the Fiend Artisan, paid 3 mana, searched my library, grabbed the Yarok's Fenlurker, it came into play, and then they exiled a card in their hand, and it was the Embercleave. And I was like, brilliant,
wow.
I did it. And I was like, all right, then I passed the turn, because I didn't want to attack, because I know so many times that I've like gotten rid of the one thing in their hand only for them to draw it again the next turn, and you kind of like, okay. So I didn't attack, I left all my blockers back. They passed the turn, they threw their land out really fast, so like obviously they were like, man. They didn't attack again, and they were at 9, and then the following turn, when they passed it back to me, I went and searched up my Grey Merchant of Asphodel and drained them for 9, and then I won.
That's awesome.
So
wow.
this deck has so many little moving pieces and can really do a lot of damage if you set up your turns right. And the all-stars so far have been the Fiend Artisans. So those are a lot of fun. And then finally, let's get on to Mutate, because Mutate has been like my favorite mechanic ever in forever. And in the beginning, I had no idea how it worked. You find it in the Mutate deck.
I was trying to figure out which card is the card that makes your opponent discard a card.
Yarrick's Fenlurker. That is
Okay. When Yarrick enters the battlefield, each opponent exiles a card from their hand.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That was awesome that you had that in hand.
I just it was no, and it was in my deck. So that's the
it wasn't
thing.
even in your hand.
That's the thing with this deck, is that you can search up creatures that have a triggered ability when they enter the battlefield. So if you're in a situation where you have to
you have to remember all the triggers and everything.
yeah, so you have to be like, all right, what's in my deck? What's in there? What can I get?
Yeah.
If your opponent just has one creature on board and you have to get rid of it, you have the creature Plaguecrafter in there, that when it comes into the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. So if they only have one creature and you don't have a removal spell, you just search up your Plaguecrafter, it comes into play.
This
your
is
opponent
very
has to
much
sacrifice it.
like a black swamp deck. Like
It's a very,
everything's in
it's
the
a
shadows.
very swampy deck. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So Mutate. Let's move on to Mutate real quick, because I've been
Mutate.
mutations. So much fun. Once I learned how this mechanic worked, it became like my pet thing. Like I just kept getting. I played with this deck in the play queue. I think where's the top? I've played 44 matches with this one deck, and I've played like 6 or 7 with each other deck. So I'm like just so into it, because once I figured out
20 versions.
no lie, there's 20 versions of this deck. It's once I started seeing how it worked and understood the mechanic, I was like, oh my god, I need to perfect this. And I got to shout out Dark Knight Gaming for bringing up the Nightveil Predator as the perfect creature for this deck. So in a nutshell, with Mutate, you're putting creatures on top or under creatures to create this like ultimate creature that does a whole bunch of stuff when it mutates. Big monster that does a whole bunch of crap. The one thing that you worry about though is that it's vulnerable to a removal spell. Like you put a whole bunch of stuff on top and you're like banking on being able to keep mutating it.
Yeah.
But if somebody has a removal spell, all those things die and you're back to 0. So my initial thing was the Paradise Druid. So that's the first card in there. So the Paradise Druid is hexproof as long as it's untapped. So as soon as you tap it, it loses hexproof and then it's vulnerable to a removal spell. So what I was doing in the beginning was just like putting a whole bunch of mutate things on the Paradise Druid but not attacking with it. It was like my my companion, right? Like you just put stuff on it, all those things trigger, but you never get to attack.
And they're all under the Paradise Druid.
And they're all, or they could be over. So the thing with mutate is really cool, is that if you mutate something onto a creature that doesn't have summoning sickness, like it's been out a few times, if you mutate it, you can attack with it, which is crazy awesome. You can mutate your Paradise Druid into like a 7/7, and then and then you can attack with it, which is awesome. But the Paradise Druid thing was like, all right, it's still vulnerable to a board wipe, which anything will be anyway. I mean, you can't avoid a board wipe unless something's indestructible, but you can't really just like have.
Yeah, but you probably get it early.
Get it early. That's what kind of like your opening hand needs to have a Paradise Druid. It's kind of you want to mulligan into one. You don't want any of these big things. But once I was like, what has hexproof? What hexproof? Hexproof is kind of hard to come by. And then our friend was like, what about Nightveil Predator? I was like, bingo. It's a 3/3 flying death touch hexproof creature. For 2 blue and 2 black. So it's the perfect mutate target because you can still attack with it because it always has hexproof. It's a 3/3 flying death touch. So it already has 3 awesome abilities. And so what you do is you just mutate the hell out of that thing.
Yeah.
And so let me just go through the mutate stuff really quick because so I've got 4 Sea Dasher Octopus. So if you mutate that onto a creature, it gains the ability of whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Its mutate ability is 1 colorless and 1 blue and has flash. So if you're attacking with a whatever creature,
it goes through.
If it goes through before damage, you smack that on there and then you get to draw a card. Okay, and then it stays on there. So now every time it damages whatever. 3 Dirge Bats. The Dirge Bat is a 3/3 flyer flash for 2 colors and 2 black. Its mutate ability is 4 colors and 2 black. and it says whenever it mutates, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So you could be, at any point, you could flash this in as a 3/3 flyer. If you have the mana, you can flash it in for its mutate cost onto something, and when it comes into play on a thing, you can destroy a creature or planeswalker.
That's awesome.
Okay?
It's kind of expensive for 6.
It is expensive, but it also works the flip side, the other way. So if this was in play as a 3/3 flyer, and then I flashed in a Sea Dasher Octopus onto
Oh,
it,
that's still considered a
it's,
mutated?
exactly. So that's the
Oh,
cool
you gotta
thing.
know the
You gotta
ins
go
and
back and
outs.
forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it mutates, means that if at any point a mutation happens to it, it doesn't have to be the 6, it can be the 2.
So hopefully you play it on
So you
turn
can play
4
that
or earlier.
Turn 3, and then
Yeah.
you can start mutating with other stuff. So every time you mutate that thing, you get to pick off something.
That's awesome.
2 Gem Razors, we talked about earlier. That's the 4/4 for 3 colors and a green. It mutates for 2 green and a colorless. When it comes into play, when it mutates, you destroy a target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. It has reach and trample. 2 Migration Paths. That's just a sorcery that gets some lands out of your deck. You really want to ramp up with this deck. You want to get a whole bunch of lands out kind of early on so you can start mutating and stuff. So you search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tap, so shuffle your library. It also has cycling for 2, so if it's a dead card in your hand late in the game, you pay 2 mana, jump in your graveyard and get to draw a card.
Nice.
4 Migratory Greathorns. So this is the first mutate that you want to try to get on a Paradise Druid. So when you mutate it, it costs a green and 2 colorless. You get to search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library into 3/4 creatures. So if you have Paradise Druid on turn 2, turn 3, you want to tap your 3 mana, mutate your Paradise Druid with the Migratory Greathorn, then you get to search your library for a land card, put it into play, now you have a 3/4 hexproof. Okay, cool. Now, if you're not drawing your Night Veil Predator, if you're kind of like wavering a little bit, just leave the Paradise Druid, don't tap it for mana, and just start mutating the Paradise Druid with all these things, and then you'll start building your board. So 4 Night Veil Predators, you really want to try to get a Night Veil Predator with all the stuff, but if you don't, do it on Paradise Druid. Now this is the all-star of the game, and I can't believe it really does what it does, and it does it all the time. I posted a couple pictures on Twitter of me not having anything left in my deck and having my entire deck on the board because of this one creature. So it's the Auspicious Starix. It costs 4 colors and a green for a 6/6 creature. Okay, so that's its base cost. It's 5 mana for a 6/6. Its mutate cost is 5 colors and a green. And then its mutate ability is the following. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile X permanent cards, where X is the number of times this creature is mutated. Put those permanent cards onto the battlefield. Now, if you've been mutating a Paradise Druid over and over and over again, say you mutated it 4 times, then you get to the mana where you can Auspicious Starix and put that on top of it. You'll now have 5 mutates, because that would be 4 and then 1. You get to put it on top. I would put it on top because you want to make the top creature the biggest power and toughness. So you mutate it onto the top. Now you have a 6/6 Paradise Druid, so it's hexproof, and then it has all this other stuff that's already mutated to
Put
it.
those all into the back.
And then you flip the top 5 cards of your library, and for every permanent that you reveal, you just put them into play.
What?
There is no drawback. You just put them into play, and then every time you mutate again, you do it again. So the next time you do 6 times, and then you get a whole bunch of things. So it's absolutely ridiculous. First of all, which is it just leads to, and it counts for lands. It counts for everything, and lands come into play untapped. So if you get like 3 lands and 2 other permanents, you get 3 lands that you can work with to cast more stuff.
The drawback is every time you do it, you have to exile more cards.
Yes.
Okay.
But
it's a very small drawback.
So they're in there, and I jam 3 Agent of Treacheries in there at the high end of the deck, because the Agent of Treachery, when it enters the battlefield, you get to steal something from your opponent. So you're hoping to early game get this Starix going, and then once you start mutating it, if you hit Agent of Treachery, it comes into play for free, and then you get to steal an opponent's thing. That's what the Agent of Treachery does.
That's awesome.
So there's two of the legends in there. One is the Netherite Apex of Death. Now we run 1 plains in the deck because it does cost 2 colors of plains, a white, a black, and a green. But there's really no white in the deck otherwise, because its mutate cost is 4 colorless, a green, and a white hybrid, and 2 black. So you can always cast its mutate ability. So Nethroi is a 5/5 Death Touch lifelink for a mutate cost of 7. And then when it mutates, return any number of target creature cards with a total power of 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. What? So
how is this not 100% win rate?
If you mutate that onto something and you have an Agent of Treachery, a Paradise Druid, and another Agent of Treachery in your graveyard, that's 6 power. You can put those 3 creatures back into play for free, essentially.
And they still do their thing.
And they still do their
battlefield
thing. Yeah. They still do their thing. So there's 1 Nethroi in there because why not? And then there's 2 Brokos, Apex of Forever, who's the Sultai version of the legend, the Apex. Its mutate cost is 2 colorless, a blue-black hybrid, and 2 green. It has trample, and then you may cast Brokos Apex of Forever from your graveyard using its mutate ability, and it's a 6/6. So this gives you a mutate engine if it dies, or if you want to mutate something, if like you have a Dirge Bat in play, and that's the one that when it mutates, it kills something. If Brokos is in the graveyard, you can pay its mutate cost and then mutate onto a creature and trigger all the mutate abilities.
Oh my god.
So it's like an always recurring mutate ability. So it's like, it just gives you something, because if you like, kind of like stall out and you have a couple lands or whatever and you can't do anything, like you can't, if you need to mutate something or whatever, that if that's in your graveyard, you can just cast it and then you can mutate it onto something.
This is amazing.
3 Agents of Treachery and then a whole bunch of lands.
Because of the hex-proof stuff, because otherwise anything that just destroyed a target creature could kill the creature, no matter how many things are mutated on it, right?
Exactly. So the key to the deck is having a hexproof creature that gets all the mutate stuff on it. You don't have to, you can play a mutate creature for its non-mutate cost and just have it be a 4/4 creature for 4
And what if you mutate a hexproof onto that? Now is it hexproof?
It works both ways. So anytime...
Doesn't matter if it's on top or it's on the bottom. Does it really matter which card is on top?
Yes.
Why?
For the power and toughness. So whatever creature that you want to represent the power and toughness of the creature, that's the one you put on top. So if you have a Paradise Druid, which is a 2/1 creature, and you mutate everything on the bottom, it's still just going to be a 2/1 creature with all that stuff.
Oh, it's only the abilities, not the power and toughness.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So then if you put it on top, it'll be, say it's a 6/6 creature, it'll be the 6/6 creature with all the bottom stuff on it.
And you can't mutate once it's already mutated. You can't like change that.
You can't move it around, no. But you can cast. The cool thing is you can cast. I don't know why you would want to, but if you needed to cast like a legendary creature on itself, you could do that. Like if you need a mutate trigger, say you need everything on the bottom to trigger, you can mutate it and it won't die, because the legend rule is like if 2 legends come into play, you can only keep 1. But if you mutate it, it's not coming into play. It's getting smushed onto the thing. It's a really cool mechanic, and I'm all in on it. It's so much fun.
That's awesome.
And the pictures of I built 2 versions. This is the one I've been playing the most of. We can post both in our Discord and stuff this week. It's just like, I enjoy it so much. Mutate is great.
Have you taken it on ladder yet? Or you just
I played this on ladder twice and I won.
Dude.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Its mana base is a little bit wonky because you have the Night Veil Predators, which are 2 blue, 2 black. So that's like getting 2 blue, 2 black is a little hard when you're also running green. You know, there's 3 colors, but you got the Paradise Druids. You have the Migratory Greathorn, which searches your library for land cards. You have the new lands that came out in this set that have 3 colors, which are the Triomes. I don't know if you still have that up there.
Yeah, Triome.
You have the Zagoth Triome, which adds either black, green, or blue. So it's a tri-land, which is amazing. So those are in there.
Oh my god, Reg.
So this is a lot of fun. I have so much fun playing it.
What time are you going to start streaming tomorrow?
Probably start around noon, 1 o'clock.
Okay, I gotta work tomorrow.
Yeah. So shout outs to the crew, all the people who have been, coming into the stream, having fun. Just you know who you are. We'll be doing this forever. Y'all are my homies. Everybody who comes in and hangs out. It's for me, as I mentioned earlier, streaming. I'm not trying to be some superstar or streamer person. I'm more of just like, want to hang out with the people who share like, you know, similar interests and want to have fun, listen to music, talk about stuff, relax, and just, you know, talk deck ideas, talk about stuff, talk about life, but like really just kind of like get into the game together, bounce ideas off of one another, and just
Destroy
get
the
better.
competition.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, get better.
Yeah, I mean, get better. Yeah. So shout out to everybody, and you know, y'all know who you are. You're the greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Shout out.
and
Thank
that's
you.
hopefully y'all learned something about Mutate. I'm glad to have provided some people with information about it, because it's really funny how I went from not knowing at all how it worked when it was spoiled to it being my favorite thing. So
It's crazy how they, every time they mutate, they do something. When the card mutates, and it comes on both ends, it happens.
it's just, it's a great mechanic.
A lot of
It's so fun.
clicking, a lot of, yeah.
There's a lot of clicking. There's a lot of clicking. Yeah. So yeah, that's the end of my turn.
Wow.
I'll end my turn here.
Is anyone watching the show?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Who's watching?
I don't know. People.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
If you're watching the show, hi, I did my makeup for you today.
I did my makeup for you today too. See?
Oh yeah, the quarantine beard.
Quarantine
It's looking
beard.
good.
I hate it. It's gross. I'm gonna show
No!
it to you. It's so gross.
You can't shave it.
Yeah.
You lose the game if you shave it. Yeah.
Okay.
Not until Gina Raimondo says
That's
you're
true.
free.
Yeah.
JJ Lang doesn't like her. He's always making fun of her.
Really?
I don't know why. I think she's cool. I have nothing against her. So, what do we got here? Oh, some trivia. Let's try some trivia.
Okay.
This is from an old article written by Mark Rosewater.
Yeah.
You familiar?
I know Mark. We go way back.
Cool. And it's from
Bojerka is going off now about me shaving my beard, and yes, I will.
No, Bojerka. Wait a minute. He said this is the quarantine
It's a
beard.
quarantine beard, but you know.
You said I have you on video and audio saying you would not shave it.
All right.
Okay.
All right. You heard it here first. All right. So, Magic Trivia.
Question 1. What alpha card was considered misprinted back in 1993, yet was later errated back to its alpha functionality? This is old. This is reaching back. I don't know if you're gonna know any of these. I'm sorry.
Let me think. No, I'm thinking. Let me think, because I kind of know.
I can give you a hint.
Okay, you want to give me a hint?
The original card was an interrupt, but was mistakenly printed with the card type instant. It later became an instant when 6th edition rules eradicated the interrupt card type. Anybody in chat now?
It's not counterspell, is it?
Red Elemental Blast.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right.
For 1 red, choose 1, counter target blue
Okay.
spell or destroy target blue.
It was an
permanent.
interrupt, and then they changed it to instant.
Yeah.
There were instants and interrupts together. Okay. All right.
Because it was a choose 1. Okay. Question 2.
Question 2.
From Arabian Nights. The original Arabian Nights, Aladdin's lamp, had 2 of what?
I don't know. What did it have?
At the time, the colorless mana bubble was too small to hold a 10. Modern layouts have since solved this problem. So they put 2 5-cost mana bubbles instead.
Oh, interesting.
And
Okay.
yes, this caused a lot of confusion back in the day, mostly because people thought the extra 5 was a typo.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Alright.
Just keep. I like this stuff. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. Keep going. Bring it at me.
You'll never know this one.
Alright.
This is a hard one. How many cards in Antiquities do not have the word artifact or artifacts appear? How that's like,
17.
how could anyone know that?
What's the answer? 17?
If you think sets are heavily themed now, check out the dedication Antiques had to its theme. All of the cards, with the exception of some colorless lands, either affected artifacts, were unaffected by artifacts, used artifacts, or were artifacts.
Ooh.
What about Urzer's power plant? I said some of these questions would be hard. It has the word artifact in its flavor text. Yeah. So there were 3: strip mine,
Oh yeah, strip mine.
strip mine, and strip mine.
They were different artwork.
Yeah.
Keep going.
All right, let me find a good one. Question 5.
Yes.
The Dark.
Mm.
This is a set.
What's that?
Did you ever play it?
No, I mean I got into it after all that stuff was out. What's the
All right,
question?
what was
What's the
the-
question?
This will be the last one. The set includes one of only 2 cards in existence where the same person designed the card, named the card, wrote the flavor text, and illustrated the card. What is that card?
Don't know.
Elves of Deep Shadow.
Oh, cool.
1 green, a 1/1 for green. 1/1. Add 1 black. If you tap it, it adds 1 black. Elves of Deep Shadow deals 1 damage to you.
Oh, it's a 1/1 for 1.
It's a 1/1 for
Then
1.
Taps for green, and you take 1.
Taps for black.
Sorry,
And you
taps
take
for yeah. Cool.
That's a cool card.
Yeah.
All right,
That's some old school trivia.
that's a failed trivia.
That's all right.
I need better trivia.
That's
Please
all right.
send me your trivia. DM me. DM me.
Slide into the DM.
Mock Sapphire. Your trivia questions for Rich.
Yeah, it's all right. That's some old trivia, but you know,
Dear Rich,
now we all learn something. Yes, dear me.
I am a teen living with a foot in each world. My
Okay.
parents are religious
Uh-huh.
and don't approve of my sexuality.
Okay.
Bisexual.
Okay.
And my peers harshly stereotype my beliefs. I feel rejected by both worlds, and I'm trying to make it until I'm 18 so I can leave this situation.
Okay.
Lately, Rich, things have taken a turn for the worse.
Okay.
Both sides won't accept me until I am completely Christian or completely non-Christian. Is there any advice you can give me? Signed, Pete. He said we could use his name.
Okay.
With no last name. Could be a million Pete's.
Yeah, there's a lot of pizza out there.
We have a teen in turmoil here.
Teen in turmoil.
Parents are religious, they don't approve of the sexuality.
How old? How old again?
16. Trying to make it till 18 so you can leave the
It's
situation.
tough. That's a toughie.
Things are taking a turn for the worse though. It feels like no one accepts
Yeah.
Pete because he's 1 foot in each. He's Christian but
Yeah.
bisexual,
That's
and,
hard.
and the
That
friends
one-
are.
When you're that young and you can't leave a situation.
Yeah, you feel trapped. I would say Pete, things are gonna get better.
Ride it out.
Ride it
I
out.
mean,
Get
Be-
leave, go try to go to a state where there's some more liberal
you gotta
atmosphere
be
for
you,
you.
though. You gotta be you.
Be you. Stay strong.
You have to walk a line. I feel like when you're younger, or I mean now even, when you feel a certain way about something, you know one side will react one way, the other side will react another way. It's like, you gotta be careful to not disrupt both of those sides, but still being yourself. So kind of focus in on Pete. Focus in on, I am this person. I've got 2 years to go. Let me not ruffle any feathers by lashing out against my super Christian parents, but also, like getting involved with a group of people who don't believe that being Christian is wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
Be yourself, and if that means not commingling with either side is what you have to do, then don't do it. Be a loner. Be yourself. Find those people who accept you. Don't worry about those other people who don't accept you because of one thing or the other, right? Find that group.
It's hard to imagine people being liberal-minded to say, yeah, you're bisexual, I accept you, but you're Christian, so I don't accept you.
Yeah.
Like,
You got to find that
that's,
group.
you gotta find,
You got to find your people.
You gotta
And
find your people.
You'll find
They're
your
out
people.
there.
They are out there.
we're out there.
I found my people when I went to a hardcore show for the first time.
Oh,
You
man.
know, like that was my people.
When I listened to Minor Threat Straight Edge,
Yeah.
I found someone else who gave me permission to be myself.
Yeah.
Because there was pressure. But you can be yourself.
It's
You don't have to fall to the peer pressure.
you find you're a teenager, you have probably there's outlets to go, like, I don't know, let's just say music, art, cafe, sport, whatever the things are where there's people of your age. and you'll be able to find those people. You'll hear it, you'll see it, and you got to be a little bit outgoing too. Be like, hey,
Read
what's
Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I highly recommend that to everybody.
Really?
Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. It's the story of the Buddha and his life. But it's written by Hermann Hesse.
It's
Yeah.
good.
It's
I've heard of it for
it's
my whole life,
amazing.
but I had never
It's amazing.
never dipped in.
It's amazing.
Yo, the chat is saying how
Are they giving me?
the
Are they giving me
chat's giving
suggestions?
some great advice. So
Yeah,
be,
please.
be true to yourself. Bojoker said. Biohazard Dubstep saying that I'm a teenager and I can vouch for this statement. And Dark Knight Gaming says difference is what makes us unique, and that's very true.
That's
all
right.
Statements.
So Pete, and we're here for you. Thank you for writing in.
Yeah.
We're
When I
here
found my
every week.
people,
We're not going
people,
anywhere.
man,
We're your people.
that's such a great memory of just realizing that moment where I like went out of my comfort zone and went to a loud music gathering. Like I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a show was at that point. I didn't know that like going to this skate park in a town over from me when I was in high school. And like I was like, oh, there's gonna be bands playing. Like you don't know. That first time is just so like.
Right.
And you go in and you see people yelling and screaming and dancing and jumping off stage, and you're like, this is my shit. This is where I want to be. This is great. And then you're like, the first time you freak out and you mosh, but like you don't know what you're doing. You just kind of like flail around. And then I met my friend Neil. I don't know. Do you remember Neil,
Yeah,
right?
Neil,
Neil
yeah.
for a long. I met Neil, and for whatever reason, Neil liked me. And he's a few years older than me, and it just was like, he was like, "Hey, do you listen to X, Y, and Z?" I'm like, "No, I've never listened to this in my life. Can you help me?" The next time I saw, he gave me a flyer. He was like, come see my band play." I was like, I was making a friend, and I didn't know I was doing that at the time. I was just, as a teenager, just kind of like commingling. I wasn't really that great at making like new friends. So come see my band play. All right, cool. He brought me a tape, like he made a mixtape for me. He was like, yo, check all this stuff out. I think you'll like it. And I put that tape in, and then from that point on, it was like, oh my goodness, a whole world opened up, because so for me, it was like Korn, Slayer, Metallica, and then I bought like At the Gates, which was like the most underground of the metal I listened to before I went to a hardcore show. And then as soon as I like had the doors open to this underground scene of amazing music, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not a Korn fan. I'm not a Slayer fan. I'm like a heavy underground
music.
music.
Seek out places and that are diverse and that value diversity.
Yeah, yeah, and
like
that's
the hardcore scene value diversity.
you saw. I mean, and
You know,
you saw
being
every walks of life.
Being
in the
gay
room.
is not easy.
No.
I'm so gay that I'm not gay anymore. I started off like gay and have become so gay that I'm like not gay anymore.
Okay.
But I'm like ultra gay.
Yeah, it makes sense. I see that.
Like the rainbow flag. Like
Yeah.
I'm in
It's
there. Like
just-
all of it. I'm all of it.
If you can just mix it up and you're just like brown because all the colors are together. Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't until college that I got away.
Yep.
And just went to the next state. And I was
Yep.
far enough away where I
Yeah.
could be myself.
Yeah.
But you have to go where you can be yourself.
Yeah. I remember that
Make
face.
that your
I remember your face. I remember you were away, and here you are now, and it's wonderful.
Yes.
And you got to find yourself and your people.
I found some of the wrong people too, and
Yeah.
I had to go through that too. But Pete, we're here for you. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for listening and writing in. And anyone else wants to write in can write in at mythiclegendaries@gmail.com.
Oh, we have a comment here. Let me read this from Very Magic Me. I've known people whose families eventually come around and accept them once they come to terms with the fact that people are who they are, and they might as well love them for who they are. I've known others who have had no choice but to break off contact with their families. It's hard, but it's the way of the world. I found the people who struggle to find their people, quote unquote, usually end up being most interesting and deep further down the line. It's a journey. That is
Absolutely.
very, very
Yeah.
true.
Don't give up on family.
Yeah.
My family came around. Took them a while. But
That's
they did.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. They did.
Yeah. I luckily I have such a small family that I was when this whole like era of like punk music and tattoos and being straight edge and listening to loud music, my mom was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "This is what I like." She's like, that's fair. Like, that's it. And she just like, wait till you're 18 to get tattooed and then do whatever you want. And then with the support I had of my mom, because she was my parent, she's the person who raised me and gave me permission to do things as I was a teenager, then that freedom and that support let me go on tour, let me work for bands, let me travel, like all the things that just I wanted to be me. And that's it. I was able to, I found my people, and then those people were like, yo, we get in a van and we drive for days to play in a basement for 5 people. I'm like, yo, that's awesome, let's go.
It's
You know?
so much fun.
Yeah. So be who you are, seek out those things, and just don't be discouraged when you're younger, because
I'm still available for tours, you know, like 2-week tours.
you're a great drummer.
If you need to fill in just
Yeah.
for like 2 weeks,
Yep.
hit me up.
So
Talking
Yeah.
to you.
time expired.
Yeah, Raina Maria would
Raina
be
Maria,
like my
yeah.
number one.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh my god, love them.
Yeah.
Just want to say, join us on Discord if you're listening. You're not on a Discord yet. It's a great way to support the show. We're a
It is.
commercial-free show, advertisement-free show. And discord.me/Mythic Legendaries. We see that you joined. Thank you so much to all our new Discord members. It means a lot to us to see you pop in there. It means you're
Yeah.
listening to the show, and it means the world to us. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Discord's great.
Thanks to everyone watching right now. who's
Everybody watching.
on the Twitch. It's amazing. We love you guys so much. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, we're going to end the podcast right now, but we're going to keep the stream going for a few more minutes. So thanks, everybody. This episode will be out tomorrow, 4/24/2020. It's my featured creator day on Twitch. So if you want to come and say hello while I'm streaming tomorrow or today, whenever you're listening to this, April 24th, Friday, Wizards of the Coast is going to sponsor my stream. So thank you so
I'm
much.
proud of you, Rich G.
Thank you so much.
The world belongs to the Titans.
Have a good day.
We're not going. We're staying.
Yeah, I was just ending the recording, but we're still
Cool.
we're still here. We're still here. Hey, thank you so much. It's so great to see a bunch of people hanging out. That means the world to us. That's what, oh my goodness, you just smashed a bottle on your head. So what's up, everybody? Did you enjoy that? We enjoyed that. Thank you so much. You love looking at yourself, don't you?
Hey, look at the people.
Hey, how's it going?
Our friends.
Hey, friends.
What's going on? How's everyone doing? Any questions? Any comments? Questions? Yeah, Ox went from 0 to legend in 4 days. Didn't spend any money. Did a free-to-play account. Never unlocked Demon Hunter, the newest class. Just like, so I have some work to do. A lot of work to do.
You know what's funny? The person who won that DreamHack Magic event, Aaron Gertler, his partner picked up Arena and played that deck that he won that tournament with, and did the same thing. Like, started at 0 and got to Mythic in like 6 days or something.
Oh my god.
And she didn't really play.
That's amazing.
And I look at that and I'm like, that is some awesome, I don't know, it's just like the mental fortitude to be somebody's partner and know that they put so much time and effort in playing a game, and like they watch them and support them, and then like be like, hey, let me play. And then they just like do the same thing. They're like, yo, I know exactly how to play this deck because it's the only deck you play and you designed that deck. Let me try it out. And then 6 days later, they're in Mythic as well. It's like super sick.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick to it with deck. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick a deck
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna stick to it all week.
Mm-hmm.
I pledge to the listeners, I'm gonna stick to the same deck. I'm gonna watch video on the deck, and I'm gonna stream once.
One time?
Yeah.
Just once.
Well, I have to commit to at least once.
Yeah.
To open up.
Yes.
So
What is, don't be stubborn? Was that the
don't be
the
stubborn.
Yo, Canadian MTG, mono green, mutate? Yes, please. Share that list. See, that's what I want to try to do too. Are you using the crocodile? Are you using the I think it's still the something scale, wayward crocodile? It's the 5/3 crocodile that has hexproof also.
That mutate list is bananas. Rich. That thing is you're gonna slay with that thing.
I hope so. Thanks for the follow, Very Magic Me. Appreciate it very much. Love all the new friends we've been making. You got a friend in me.
You got a friend in me. Don't you see?
Flying Gishoth, yeah. Flying dinos. Flying dinos. Biohazard Dubstep is an expert in dinosaurs. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yep. He schooled me on I called something a velociraptor the other night, and he was like, actually, it's not a velociraptor.
There's a really cool lyric, and You've Got a Friend in Me, because I was actually just listening to that song today. It was on my playlist. And the last
Is that your playlist when you're driving over here? You're like all like, you just get all
getting
into
that vibe, yeah. Oh man. If you got troubles, I got them too. There's anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together and we see it through, because you got a friend in me. Oh, so good.
Utah Raptor. Is that Utah Raptor? Utah Raptor is what a velociraptor is in Jurassic Park.
Oh, as the years go by, our friendship will never die.
Will never die.
You're gonna see it's our destiny. You've got a friend in me.
That sounds like a posse hardcore band.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely. Some guy with a shaved head. Did you know that velociraptors are the size of chickens?
That's how fast I can really play in real life.
Good job.
Still got it?
You got it.
Shit.
You got it. All right, I gotta pee.
All right,
So
I'll hold the fort. No, I'm just kidding. I can't. My brain goes with you.
I know. Thank you, everybody. All of you out there, we really appreciate you hanging out. We're probably going to do this every time that we do the podcast. We're going to do the podcast.
Gives me an excuse to like take a shower.
A little, yeah.
It was getting bad. I used to show up like
in the sleep clothes
with the jogger pants and my pajamas underneath the jogger
That's what
pants.
I mean. I was like, all right, she's going to show up like that. I can just roll out of bed and do the same thing. So.
Oh my god, I forgot. I have a gift for you in the car. If you have to grab it, I'm gonna go grab it and bring it back.
Okay.
It's noodles, instant ramen noodles, but they're vegan.
Okay. Sign me up.
Did you know that have you ever had instant ramen noodles that are vegan? Okay.
Wait, no, I haven't.
They're soon. They're called soon.
Yeah. Are they in a green package?
You've had them? They're great,
They're
right?
delicious, yeah.
Alright, I have one for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.